Okay.
So for our question, we're doing how artists adapt to culture and technology over the last 30 years. We're going to be going over the history of distribution, how artists earn minimum wage, examples and other case studies, and future challenges for artists. We're doing this to sort of have an understanding of how artists sustain themselves and build a career as a musician, what they face nowadays in the industry, and whether this is sort of like a problem for them or they can use it to their advantage. So first off, we're going to do sort of like a brief history of how distribution works. The first ever CD came out, it was released in 1982. Then it was the World Wide Web in 1993. The introduction of MP3 in 1995. The invention of Napster in 1999. Then it's re-released in 2002. The launch of iTunes in 2003. The launch of Spotify in 2008. And the latest the streaming services, Apple Music, launched 2015. So these are sort of a couple of sales from sort of a 20 years difference. In 1994 you've got sort of Mariah Carey, Counting Crows and Pink Floyd. And then we compare this to some more modern artists like Beyonce, Bradley Gilbert and Eric Church, and you can see a massive difference in album sales, like 1.5 sort of million difference in each of them, more or less.
So we wanted to have a look at what it took for a musician, a British one, to earn a minimum wage, and how the music industry has affected that. So we found the average yearly salary for an adult living in the UK is £26,000 per year. But according to the Musicians Union, over half of musicians earn less than 20,000. So you can see that musicians are up against it at the moment, where they are struggling to make a minimum wage. We also did some research, found this image here, which shows what an artist makes out of the CD, which, £8 is probably the average price, maybe a little bit more these days. But you can see that the artist there, for an £8 CD, is only making £1.04 out of it, which isn't much compared to the £8 being paid for it. So we wanted to have a look at where else it is artists and musicians make their money from, and how they can take money out of the music industry, so to speak. And we found investigating this that there's a lot more emphasis on musicians being more broad about what they do and where they work, as artists are only making 6% of their money from their sound recordings. It's actually, they make a lot more money out of touring and teaching or playing as part of a band where they're paid as musicians these days. Which is why you see bands going on tour more often than where you would have done in the 90s or 80s, where some bands didn't even need to tour. So we also we wanted to have a look at an artist that was relevant before the digital age kicked in, and an artist that's still relevant now. And Green Day is one of the first artists we picked for that. Nimrod, when that was first released, sold 80,000 in its first week, and grew to become more popular over time, because back then the internet wasn't around for promoting it. It was more word of mouth, newspaper, magazine reviews, and all that. While their newest album, released just a couple of weeks ago, sold 95,000 in its first week sales, which had a media campaign, social media presence, and all that. But we did find, on looking further, they have been steadily decreasing from the album sales they had during the 2000 years. 21st Century Breakdown had 219,000 in 2009, and Uno in 2012 had 135,000. So you can see, even though they are as popular as what they were, there is a gradual decrease in album sales, probably due to streaming. We wanted to see whether or not sales were if there was a correlation between sales and how successful an artist is. Because as we found earlier, artists make more of their revenue from touring, performing, rather than by producing music. So we looked at report venue sizes, as they are quite a nice meter of how popular an artist is before we'd look at those. And we found that when Green Day toured Nimrod, they played for a 3,500 capacity venue. Well, even now, having been on a sales decline, they're still playing bigger arenas and have sold it out, trying to get tickets.
So we also looked at how Metallica have done in the past couple of years, over the past 30 years. And the first album, Master of Puppets, in 1986, had 500,000 sales in the first year. However, Death Magnetic in 2008 had 500,000 sales in the first week. However, Master of Puppets didn't have any promotion, didn't have music videos or any EPs released. And I think Death Magnetic did, so it kind of isn't on EP either. Metallica was also the leading force behind takeout of Napster. In April 2000, they filed a lawsuit against not only Napster, but also the University of Southern California, University and Indiana University, and West got transcripts of Lars Ulrich when it was at the court date, a little something said while I was at court. They said, since what I do is make music, let's talk about the recording artist for a moment. When Metallica makes an album, we spend many months and many hundreds of thousands of our own dollars writing and recording. We typically employ a record producer, recording engineers, programmers, assistants, and occasionally musicians. We rent time for months of recording studios owned by small business men who have risked their own capitals by maintaining constantly upgrade very expensive equipment and facilities. Our record releases are supported by hundreds of record companies, employees, and provide programming for numerous radio and television stations. It's clear that if music is free for downloading, the music industry is not viable. All the jobs that I just talked about will be lost in the diverse voice of the artist was picked. The argument here a lot is that music should be free. What does that mean that musicians should work for free? Nobody else goes for free, why should musicians? Make no mistake about it, Metallica is not anti-technology, but when we made our first album, most records were on vinyl. By the late 80s, sales accounted for over 50% of the market. Now the compact disc dominates. The next format is a form of downloading from the internet with distribution and manufacturing segments passed on to the American consumer. And of course, we will embrace that format. And I think it's said in 2000, roughly. And they did later have, in March 2001, and that's where they were ordered to shut down the website. So what about the future of music and how artists can have to adapt to the future? In 2002, David Bowie said, the absolute transformation of everything we ever thought about music will take place within 10 years, and nothing is going to be able to stop it. Music is going to be like running water or electricity. This is true of the likes of streaming, and what I'm going to predict now is that, well, what I've searched on the internet for prediction is that by 2020, streaming value will be around 16 billion compared to what it is last year, which was 2.9 billion, and artist revenue may go up due to the fact that more advertisers are going to go through YouTube and Spotify to get people for on successful artists pretty much going to get more money and the smaller artists. Digital downloads may be on the way out. People make for physical copies such as CD and vinyl, and finally, start-out artists could become frozen out due to record companies not taking risks or investing money to the large or rich, let's just say this. When there's less people buying music, there's money generated back, and record companies take those chances. Instead of promoting 500 records a year, they promote 50 records a year, and they don't put the same amount of money into breaking the law. So I just think about all this is that there's less and less money being put into younger artists, and there's danger of younger artists coming close to extinction.
So how have artists adapted to copying technology over the last 30 years? What emphasis has been needed on scoring? This can be due to things sort of like piracy and new things. As soon as people got access to that medium, another medium has to be created which they can't have access to. That's why people go touring, because it's live, because you can only see them like that. Also, there's more integrated sort of social media needs, and also some more awareness for social media presence. It's quite big, especially the internet how it is now, how people are using it for things as Instagram and all that. While the digital age made it easier for your music to be accessed, it has become harder to monetize, therefore making it harder for a musician to make a profit. Artists that existed in the music industry before streaming have had to adapt, whilst new artists have had to find their way against the struggles of a changing industry. And that's it.
Very good. Any questions?
Yes, it's coming back to your conclusion. You may have slightly answered it. What would you recommend an artist's approach would be if they are limited? You suggested that they say release their single and tour like crazy, or what would you say?
I'd say make them, I don't think they should tour like crazy because they're new artists. It's not like everyone's going to meet. I'd say play sort of a couple of club shows and grow from there. And whilst you're doing that, you can also advertise your social media. So at the end of the game, you can just be like, yeah, follow me on Facebook, Snapchat, and Twitter, and whatever. So basically, you have sort of more following. And then when it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, more people will pay to see that. More people will go for things. As soon as your mum shares, say, a video of you performing at a pub, and somebody likes it, they'll go and want to like it. So you want to put into sort of small shows, and then when it gets bigger, go into things like streaming when you can afford it, and then sort of maybe touring.
Yeah, it's got to be a mix of everything, because everything there is at the moment, digitally and in person and musically, all adds up to this big picture. Because even if you were to be the best guy on Facebook, Snapchat, whatever, if your music's rubbish and no one wants to listen to it, no one is going to listen to it. So you still have to be the musical package, but you have to go out and put the effort in and tour. You have to know how to work your social media. You know, you've got to cover a lot of ground these days. Well, before you could just run off talent, and someone will pick you up and support you and help you along the way.
Any other questions?
What are your thoughts about royalties with regard to the future for artists?
Well, as in, do you think musicians can get paid solely on royalties, or do you mean like?
As part of that overall revenue stream for the duo, how important do you think royalties are with that?
I think it's important depending on who's seen your music. For example, like obviously you can get royalties from things like having it displayed on the radio, and if you're out can listen back. You can also get royalties if it's featured sometimes on a small TV show. Because I've known a friend who's had their single got on the show called Misfits. But it's really dependent on who sees it. Like it can be a good revenue stream, especially if it's a popular series. But as soon as you put your music on another sort of media platform, it then becomes solely reliant on two variables: popularity of the show and popularity of your media, of your music. You understand?
Yeah. What about royalties with regard to live performance?
Live performance.
Because if one of the things that an artist needs to do these days is do more performance, have you explored the royalty aspect of performance as well, and how that benefit?
Kind of, not as much as the more studio and distribution side of it. I think there's a growing thing in musicians these days where they want to do it independently. You know, using things like self-funding pages, you know, going and approaching venues and asking them if they can use it rather than doing it for a promoter, so they can keep all the money for themselves and invest it in their careers as the labels aren't doing. So, yeah, it's difficult to say, but I think there's more emphasis on people doing it themselves and trying to take a DIY approach rather than letting someone else monetize them so early on, because they don't gain anything from it.
Yeah.
Especially in sort of like an era where there's a lot of accessibility to it yourself. Like if you start a while ago, we had that sort of lecture with the record label or Genesis, and he said like no one will hire you if you had that, if only if you had these social media statistics. And when we were asking about, because we then went on a presentation to do it, and we asked about how that was the best way for artists to do that. And he says, do it yourself. There's lots of distribution sites and other things as well, which will perfectly help this as well.
Any more questions?
Say a large band starts touring like twice, 3 times a year, and start charging over £100 for gigs, do you think people might stop going to gigs as well? Because
I'd
it's
say, yeah.
oversaturated, like bands touring way too much and they're singing the same album every time. Most people not stop.
From personal experience, I'd say yes, because I've seen it trying to buy gig tickets myself. I wouldn't want to pay 70, 80 quid for a ticket to a gig. Not for someone I've seen a year before and it costs £80, but I think it almost shows how difficult it's getting because they're not doing it to be selfish most of the time, they're doing it because they have to. So it's a double-edged sword.